this book has to be one of the books that you read from this year. Hi guys, my name is Hina and today I'm here with another month-end reading wrap-up. Cheers. So because I had a lot of work in the publishing of my book and a couple of really exciting editing projects, I managed to read only 4 books this month. But I'm totally okay with it because I'm already hitting my year-long target of 100 books way sooner than I had planned. So I'm just gonna relax. The first book that I read this month is Fantastic Land by Mike Bockvin. This book was so insanely good. This book has been written in the form of recorded interviews. So, of course, the audiobook has been written in the form of epistolary chapters that are interviews of the surviving people. They are basically the survivors of Hurricane Sadie. Now, as we get into the story, there's a very big entertainment park called as Fantastic Land, which is totally giving crazy competition to Disney and Universal Studios. It is a huge park which is multi-themed, so it has different parts for different themes and it has a lot of people working in it, right? And because of its location, it was actually disaster proof. But when Hurricane Sadie strikes, everything goes to shit. And where millions and millions of people died because of the hurricane, almost 300 plus employees were stuck inside Fantastic Land. I'll just let that sink in because this plot is just so amazing. When I read the plot, when I was researching which books to read and I came across this plot, I was so totally already in and I just wanted to get my hands on this book and wanted to read and know what was gonna happen because I love survival fiction and this book screams survival in the blurb itself. Now, coming back to the story, 300 plus employees get stuck inside the Fantastic Land. Now, because Fantastic Land was practically disaster proof, there are very few supplies for any kind of emergencies. But obviously, there are things in place, but very few people know about. So the first problem is very few people know about it because it was so secure a place that no one actually thought of being prepared. A couple of people who are prepared are the ones basically who think ahead and then form the factions that get formed. Now, coming to the second most interesting part of the plot is that when the people are faced with Hurricane Sadie and the possibility of not being rescued in time, people form different tribes, which are basically warring factions. And trust me when I tell you this, the warring factions are insane. So basically, when you hear about it, it feels a bit far-fetched, but when you're listening to the book, when you're reading the book, you will be able to see exactly how the factions would have formed and it would seem quite natural because everyone had to survive and because so few people even knew about how to survive, everyone was basically panicking. And when you have these many people panicking and stuck in a horrible situation, life or death situation, what you have on your hands is obviously chaos. And chaos is exactly what happens next. Once the tribes are formed and people choose sides, one of the tribes turns out to be extremely violent and what follows is absolute mayhem of violence. This book is insane, guys. It is so insane. I had the best time. I had the time of my life listening to the audiobook of this book because the audiobook is narrated so excellently by the narrators and you do feel the gravity of the situation, the emotions of the survivors, even though it is all fiction, but the narration and the emotions and the writing and the tone and the voice and the pacing, everything is just so perfect in this book. Every single emotion got translated and as a result, I ended up feeling really low after I was finished reading this book, because the gravity of that situation really dawned on me. And it is so rare in this kind of books where you have either some kind of a situation where you have to play a game for your life, like for example in Hunger Games, or you have to survive till the end, and in order to do that you have to kind of do some things that you would never otherwise do. Is really difficult to have those kind of emotions translated onto the page or through the audio. But in this book, the author delivered completely mind-blowingly. And if you're going to read this book, make sure that you listen to the audiobook of this book, because it is going to be totally worth it. My rating for Fantastic Land is an absolute 5 stars. The next book that I read is Mistborn: The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson. This book is actually one of the reasons why I read so few books this month, because this book is big. I mean, I'm talking about 750 pages or so. And it's not just the sheer length of the book, it's the content of the book. Because it's fantasy, and it's a complex fantasy at that. It's high fantasy, epic fantasy. And so the concepts are a bit complex, and because of that, you are not able to kind of read, at least not me personally. When the content is a bit complex, I try to go slow. Otherwise, there's a chance that I might miss a couple of few good things that I wouldn't want to read. And fantasy, I anyway like to read slow, because I love to savor the feeling of being in an entirely different world. I love reading fantasy, and I enjoyed reading this one too. I did have a couple of problems with this one, mainly related to characterization, pacing, also the overall magic system. But by the end of this book, I had realized that maybe those are the issues that will get resolved in next book or so. Now, this is primarily a trilogy, but there are even more parts, I think, as a part of a larger series. There are 3 primary books in this series, and I'm planning to finish them all before September. I have already started the second book, but I have a couple of editing projects that need finishing. I am kind of taking break from that, but I'm pretty sure when I read, I will be able to finish that one in maybe a week or 2. So I'm not too worried about it. But that is to say that I still cannot give a very solidified answer as to if this book is that great or not, because I will have to read the next and the part that comes after that. So overall, if I'll just go on this one book, so far I'm liking what I'm reading. I did have a favorite character, spoiler alert, he died. So now, that's why I said, when I reached the ending of the book, things kind of took a turn, and it was for the good, because now I'm really interested in reading the next part. Although one of the main characters that comes in the next part, Ellen Venture, is someone I'm not so sure about, but let's see. Maybe he'll grow on me. My rating for this book is a solid 4. The next book that I read is This Book Will Bury Me by Ashley Winstead. The entire reading community is so divided when it comes to this book. It is either a make or a break. There is literally no middle ground. So either it's a fantastic, or it has not been liked by the readers at all. Generally speaking, I'm extremely wary of such kind of books, because more often than not, they always turn out to be a dud. But this book was an exception, although I can see why the readers who did not like the book did not like the book. And I'm going to tell you in just a minute. So, getting into the story, this is a very unique story, and it is part of the reason why I actually picked up this book. It's an extremely original story where a bunch of amateur crime-solving sleuths come together and they help the police in solving big crimes. Now, on the surface, and actually close inspection as well, the concept seems a bit far-fetched, because when you have extremely complex cases, the police would rather involve the police from other states if the force of a particular state is very small, and they'd rather take help from the CIA and the FBI. I'm talking about the US, so of course CIA, FBI, and not some amateur sleuths. But for the sake of this book, I'm going to run along with the plot. We do with most of the books. So this is the case scenario in this book, and then we have our main protagonist, Miss Sharp, who goes by the name Searcher, and then there's a lot of sleuthing involved. So now, even though the concept is a bit far-fetched, what I really loved about the book is the sleuthing itself. How a person, or various persons, sitting at home can find out so much about a crime that has happened miles and miles away from them. I mean, it is mind-blowing, and of course, when you read literature like this, you're always thinking at the back of your head somewhere that, God, were we better off without the internet? And you know what? This question popped up in my head so many times while reading this book that it actually made me worry about all of us humans who are so dependent on the internet and who have everything on the internet, our details, our information, and how easy it is for anyone, even amateur people who put a little bit of effort into learning things, to find out practically anything about anyone. So this is why I really like this book. It made me think a lot on this topic and on a couple of other topics, on grief as well, because this book deals a lot with grief. This book also has a lot of violence in it, and then you also get a glimpse into the mind of a serial killer. And I liked the writing style of the author until the author kind of gave away the main reveal a bit earlier than she should have. That's what I think as an editor. And that kind of ruined the last part of the book. Because even after the big reveal, it was stretched out for a bit. And then, when you have this amazing climax, you really do not want a very lengthy resolution. And this book had a bit of a resolution that was really not needed. If I would have been the editor of this book, I would have made the author have an open ending for this book, because it would have worked so brilliantly in this book. But anyway, I still loved this book, and my rating for this book is going to be 4 stars, because I had a bit of a problem connecting with the characters, and I had a bit of a problem with the ending. So I'm gonna cut 1 star for that, but otherwise this book is really good. And if you love true crime, then you must read this book. Just for the enthusiasts, this book is actually based on real murders of 3 college girls in Idaho. You can check out the details of the case and then read this book. It would obviously enhance the reading experience, but you need to keep it in mind that this book is pure fiction. It was just inspired from those murders, from those Idaho murders, but in no way depict reality. So my rating for this book is 4 stars. The next book that I read is Daisy Darker by Alice Feeney. I am not a huge Alice Feeney fan, but I had come across an Instagram video in which there's a bookstagrammer talking about how this book kind of freaked her out and how she did not know who the author was, when clearly it is Alice Feeney. And I think Alice Feeney herself has commented on that video. But anyway, obviously it was for theatrics, and you know what, it clearly worked. So I was actually pretty impressed by that video, because it made me pick up the book, and that's really what matters. And it also made Alice Feeney comment on a video, so kudos. I'm gonna tag that content creator in my video. But anyway, so that's how I picked up this book. Now, why I'm not an Alice Feeney big fan is because of The Dinner Guest by Alice Feeney. That book's writing style and ending made me realize that Alice Feeney is not the perfect writer for me, because I do not like that style of writing, and neither do I like that kind of ending, where you build up a lot of suspense, but then in the end, the suspense is kind of underwhelming. So I was quite disappointed in The Dinner Guest. But again, because of that video, I picked up this book, and this book turned out to be a whole new experience for me, because this book is on a very rare topic, a person not being loved enough by their family. Now, this is something that is not explored enough in literature, especially contemporary literature, according to me. And because I had no idea that this book is going to contain so much stuff about the protagonist not being loved by her family actually went into a downward spiral for a while because it was a major trigger for me. So, personal feelings aside, I did like the writing style, I did like the narrative style, I did like the ending because it was pretty good. And of course, since before we even begin the book, we already know that this is based or motivated or inspired from And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie. So we know what's gonna happen. So there's a Nana, and she invites her entire family, three granddaughters, an ex daughter in law, her son, and a guy she practically raised, and on whom her granddaughters had a crush on since a very young age. And then there's a great granddaughter as well, Trixie. She plays a main part in the book, and Nana invites everyone for her birthday, and they are isolated on the island because of the high tide and low tide thing. People start dying. The first one to die is Nana. So I'm giving you the spoiler because it's gonna make you pick up the book. So the first one to die is Nana, the host. And then what happens is not exactly unpredictable, but still quite intriguing, if you know what I mean. So I really liked it. I liked the ending, although I was very sad for the main character, Daisy, but I still liked it. And I like the intrigue that the author tried to create around this book, in this book. But again, the ending did feel a little underwhelming. I had a major problem this time with the pacing, and pacing is something that is really hard to describe when I'm giving a review. But what the pacing did in this book is made the book feel extremely lengthy, even though the book was pretty short. I did not appreciate that. But other than that, the book is pretty good. For me, it would be a solid 3 stars. I do appreciate that it made me feel a lot of things when I was reading it. But even after that, I was not able to connect to the main character. Even though I felt so strongly about the things that happened to her, I was not able to connect to the main character. And because of that, I'm giving this book a solid 3 star. Apart from these 4 books, I am currently reading 2 books. The 3 Body Problem, which was requested by one of my readers on YouTube, and the other one is Kaizen. It's a non-fiction Japanese literature. So I haven't yet finished them. I will be finishing them very soon and will be including them in the next month's wrap-up. Thanks a lot for watching. I hope you guys are doing okay. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and do give a thumbs up. Share this video with someone who likes reading. I'll see you all in my next video. Till then.